Direct from Foxboro, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxboro Cable Access. It's Foxboro Central. And here's your host, Bob Hickey.
And welcome to another fantastic episode of Foxboro Central. I am Bob Hickey, your host, and I want to thank you for taking the time to join me and my guests as we talk about the people, events, and organizations that make Foxboro the gem of Norfolk County. We here in Foxboro always love it when we can say, hey, Foxboro is a great place to live, and it's also a great place to do business, and we are lucky to have a new business coming to town. It is called Guaranteed Rate, and Jason Evans is the what do we call you? The office guy? What is your title?
Yeah, I'm a loan officer, and I'll be running the Foxboro branch.
So you'll be the boss
of Guaranteed Rate.
All right, so welcome to Foxboro then.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so how come Foxboro? Why Foxboro?
Well, I live here, so it seemed like a natural fit to open up an office in the town.
Love to have that 2-minute commute to work, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
There you
it's
go.
about a mile, so it's not bad.
That's nice. So Jason, of course, does live here in Foxboro. I'm messing with him. But he is a loan officer with Guaranteed Rate. And what exactly does Guaranteed Rate do?
So we're a mortgage company, and we help people get mortgages to buy homes and to refinance existing homes.
Okay.
So that's our only line of
Do you do
business.
purely residents? Do you do businesses? What's your target market?
So our target market is residential, which is any residential home that's 4 units or less.
Okay, excellent. And then with Guaranteed Rate, let's just talk structure. And by the way, this is not a commercial for Guaranteed Rate, but I am very interested in the interest rate. It's not an industry exactly, but from a global standpoint, it's a very interesting time in the world. And politics are not unrelated to the economy, which is not unrelated to the stock market, which is definitely not unrelated to the direction that the Treasury and the Fed go as far as raising and lowering interest rates. And that all comes down to affordability of houses, what to do, when to buy, when not to buy. Is it a good time to take out a loan, to refinance, or is it a better time just to sit back and say, well, I'm going to sit on the sidelines? So these are all things I want to talk to you about.
Yeah, that's
so right now, let's just establish what Guaranteed Rate is. What is Guaranteed Rate?
Yeah, so we're a direct lender. We're a mortgage company. We underwrite, process, and close mortgages directly in our name. So it's always our employees that are in control of the process, which allows us to do things quickly and smoothly. And we're there to fund the loan and get the borrowers into the new homes and help them refinance when the time is appropriate to refinance and save money that way.
So great lead into, I guess the biggest question that we all have is, when is the right time to say, I've got enough equity built up in my house, I should take advantage of it for maybe a home improvement? Or do you recommend, and this is a very softball question, it's also one where there's no truly right answer, but what is the tipping point when somebody is looking at an interest rate of, say I've got a mortgage of 5.5%, and what are the rates right now?
I mean, they vary from day to day, but low 4s and high 3s.
Okay, so low 4s and high 3s. So if I have a mortgage rate of, say, 5.5%, and this is June 3rd, 2019, what's the magic number that makes it really worth it to refinance?
There's a few different reasons you'd want to refinance. You know, the most obvious for most people is to save money, right? So you really want to look at what the difference is in what you're paying today and what you could be paying on the new loan. And then if there's any costs involved, you got to see what your time period is going to be to recoup those costs and what your plans are for keeping the home. So there's no one set answer. You know, if you have $1 million loan, you can save a much smaller percentage and still make it worthwhile versus if you borrow $100,000 for your mortgage. So, you know, really it's best to do an analysis to see what the savings are, what the costs are, and what your break-even point is for recouping those costs. And say to yourself, you know, am I going to have this loan long enough to recoup the costs of this transaction, which sometimes are as low as nothing for a cost. Then there's people that need to refinance because they're getting divorced and they need to remove their ex-spouse from the property and from the mortgage. So it doesn't matter what rates are, they have to do it.
Life events
Like that. Other people need cash to send their kids to college or to do home improvements. And right now, home prices have never been higher in Foxboro.
This is true.
So people have more equity now than they've ever had before. And they're tapping into that equity to get access to some of the cash. You know, in the end, using your home to leverage it is still one of the best ways to borrow money, and some of the best rates you can get out there, if you compare it to personal loans or credit card financing. So,
well, certainly with credit card financing, it's those rates are between 17 and 23%. They're amazing, and it's hidden because it only comes at you incrementally, and it's just an interest charge line item on your card, and you make your minimum payments. You think I'm doing fine, but truly you're not.
Exactly.
It's an interesting law that went into effect where they have to show you what your repayment scheme is if you just make the minimum payments, and then this is what it would be if you make X amount over your minimum payments. So that's a good education tool.
It is.
And I'm sure that you have something like that when you are running a comparison, saying,
exactly,
you, Mr. Joe homeowner, this is what you could save if you do this.
Yeah. Another thing people do a lot of is they'll refinance into a shorter loan term. Maybe they started off with a 30-year loan. Now, a few years later, they're in a better financial position and they can afford a 15-year fixed, which will have an even lower rate but higher monthly payments. The interest savings really build up with something like that, though. So there's a variety of different reasons in the end that people can refinance, and the key is just knowing your options and knowing, like you said, what it's going to look like over the years so you can make an educated choice.
So I'm with Jason Evans. He's a loan officer with Guaranteed Rate, and Guaranteed Rate is coming to Foxboro. They're opening up a new office. They can be found at www.rate.com and /Jason Evans. That's how they get a hold of you, right?
That's right.
Also, you have an email address. It is jason.evans@rate.com. Now, with the need for, I'm trying not to get political, but with the need of clarity in the direction of the stock market, it seems like a very volatile time with threats by and against America, with politicians maybe not being consistent in their approach, and perhaps the Treasury Department not being consistent in their money scheme. So all these things coming together, in your professional opinion, is now a volatile time? Is it a time to sit back and wait and see what happens? Or is it a time to take advantage of the low interest rates because the future will maybe not be quite this rosy?
Yeah, so
what do you think?
As of right now,
Mr. Svengali.
Rates are, at the lows we've had over the last year. They haven't been lower in the last 12 months. And we're coming off a time period where in December they were hitting some of the highs we'd had in multiple years. And right now what's going on is uncertainty in the market is not a good thing for the stock market, obviously.
Nobody likes uncertainty.
And people will buy bonds, which drives yields down. Mortgage rates are determined by mortgage-backed securities, which are traded in similar fashions to the treasuries, and they're also benefiting from this uncertainty in terms of lots of buyers, which drives the rates on mortgages down as well. So currently, rates are lower than they've been in the last 12 months. And, what happens tomorrow or next week, next month is anybody's guess. But if you look at the recent history, you couldn't have picked a better time than right now to get financing as far as rates go.
Because volatility makes people nervous, and there's safety in bonds.
Exactly. They want the safe, secure investment, so they're pulling money out of stocks and into bonds, including mortgage-backed securities.
It's an interesting time, but it's a good time if you're a home buyer, or a potential home buyer, or somebody who wants to start that project. So with your company, with Guaranteed Rate, and now I get into more of the industry standards, and what are we looking for? If I'm interested in, let's say it's time and my wife and I were ready to put in that in-ground pool, and we say, hey, we've got this equity in the house. Is taking out a loan to do, I won't say frivolous, but do a value add like a pool or maybe remodeling the kitchen, is that a wise thing to do? Or is it something that it recoups the value because I'm putting it back into the home?
Yeah, so a lot goes into that. If you need to look at what your current rate is, maybe you got a loan 7 years ago when rates were at all-time lows, and they're still higher than that now. So maybe you don't want to forgo that really low rate you already have. Maybe a home equity line of credit is a better option for that person.
Gotcha.
So it's not always a straightforward answer, but it's definitely something to consider, and you really got to look at each individual scenario to see what the best choice is.
Now, NMLS, and you listed your number here, it's 21205 if anybody's interested, but what does NMLS stand for?
That's our licensing terminology that every loan officer now in the country needs to get individually licensed in addition to the company being licensed. So, I'm individually licensed in Massachusetts as well as all the other New England states, Florida and California. My company's licensed in all 50 states, but I'm not personally licensed to do business there.
Okay, interesting. So as a licensed loan officer, does that mean that you are beholden to the company first, beholden to the client first, or beholden to your family saying we need to get big commissions first? What is the what's the motivator?
So in the mortgage industry, we're not paid based on the rate we give somebody or how much closing costs we charge them.
You're not.
We're only paid based on the amount of loans we close and the amount of loans, dollar-wise, we're giving to people. So we have no incentive to give people a higher rate than they could or charge them extra fees. Yeah.
So when my loan officer says, I'm working very hard to get you a lower rate, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, they have no motivation to not do that because they don't get paid extra if they don't.
So they get paid based upon the fact you're actually doing the loan with that company.
Yep.
And so the rate, they're actually motivated to get the lower rate
They want the
because that'll
business,
encourage you to come to me as far as my company, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. I didn't know that. So
Yeah, there you go.
I thought that there was some incentive there, but
I mean, some people have access to different rates than other people. You know, when I say people, companies and different lending institutions. So you're not going to get the same rate no matter where you go, but that individual person should be doing the best they can for you.
Okay, great. That's good to know.
Yeah.
And so if I'm brand new to the whole process and maybe my spouse has passed and I'm really struggling, can I go to a loan officer who's licensed and expect to get support? I mean, say, hey, I'm really confused. I don't know what I'm doing here. Do you have time for me? Is that something that I could do, or should I go somewhere else?
That's how most people reach out to me for the first time.
Oh, really?
They'll use that almost like exact same line. It can be an overwhelming thought of buying a home and navigating the financing process, and that's what we're here for. We're the experts. That's our line of work, and we're here to guide you through it.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned that because how often do we buy homes? And it's something where I feel like I'm an okay interviewer, but I've done many, many shows, so I do this all the time. So repetition creates experience, which creates a certain comfort level of what I'm doing. But if last time I bought a house, knock on wood, was 1988. So it's been a long time.
Yeah, right. Like imagine if you were buying a house next week.
Oh, I know, right?
So be a first-time buyer again.
So what are some of the things that I'm looking for in a really good loan officer?
But you're going to want somebody that's going to give you confidence in what your qualifications are and what your numbers are, because the market is very competitive, and a lot of times you have to make very quick decisions when you're trying to decide if you want to make an offer on a house or not. And how can you do that if
that's true.
If you don't know what your payments are, what you're qualified for, or what your closing costs are going to be, any of those. So you want a loan officer that's going to be able to clearly explain all those details to you and give you that information up front so you can move forward with confidence and be able to make quick decisions when you need to.
So I think I understand what the term pre-qualified for a loan is or a mortgage, but there's got to be more to that. I can't just walk into a house and say, hey, I like this house, I'm pre-qualified for $500,000. Am I really pre-qualified, or doesn't the mortgage company have to come out and look at the house before I just say, I'll sign?
So what we do is we'll take a look at each individual client's full credit profile, so their income, their assets, their credit report, and we tell them what programs they're qualified for, how much they're qualified for, in addition to the other things we just spoke about, like how much your closing costs would be, how much of a down payment you need, what your interest rate would be based on the current market. And most of the time when people are getting pre-approved or pre-qualified, they don't have a house yet. They're trying to see what their options are.
Right.
So it's always subject to finding a property and having an appraisal done on the property. But we do as much as we can up front, including having an actual underwriter review all those documents. So now, not only are they pre-qualified, but they're technically pre-committed from us to get a mortgage. We just need them to find a home. So they can go as far along in the process as possible without actually buying the house.
Okay, interesting. So, and again, I'm speaking with Jason Evans. He is with Guaranteed Rate, and they're bringing a brand new office to Foxboro, Mass. We are always happy when new companies come to town, and hope you have much success with this Foxboro housing market.
Yeah.
What does it look like to you? I mean, we always say, oh, I can never afford to live in Foxboro. Nobody can afford to live in Foxboro. And somehow a lot of people afford to live in Foxboro.
Yeah.
So there's got to be either a disconnect, or else we're all just kind of winking at each other and say, I can't afford to live in Foxboro. What is it, Foxboro, like when compared to other communities, not only the surrounding communities, but say, and I know the rule of thumb is that the further away from the city you go, the cheaper the properties will be. So how do we stack up these days?
Well, Foxboro is in high demand. People making offers on homes in Foxboro are often going against other buyers trying to compete for the same home. So it's not unusual to have 5, 10, sometimes more offers on a single property. So with supply and demand, there's a limited supply of homes for sale and lots of buyers trying to buy them. They're driving up the prices. So it is becoming more expensive, and it's a function of Foxboro being a desirable town and people want to be here. So that's what it comes down to. It's tough as a buyer. That's why it's important to have your numbers up front, know what your options are, and be working with a good company that's going to have a good name behind it to help you get your offer accepted as well.
Do you also, those guaranteed rate also finance condominium purchases?
Yeah, that's a big part of what we do is
Okay.
condominiums. Yep.
Condominiums,
Yeah.
that seem to be the wave of the future these days, right?
Yeah, it has been for a while in the Eastern Mass area. Condos are very popular. Yeah,
They're not making any more land, I've heard.
yeah, it's tough to come by.
It is tough to come by, isn't it? So the question I suppose is on everybody's mind is, with a loan, what is a reasonable cost? I mean, if I'm refinancing a home or I'm buying a new home, maybe I'm just desperate to get the money. Do the points go up, and the points are the percentage of the overall loan, which is what my charge is. If my credit is bad, do I get charged more points? Is that a way to, or is it a higher interest rate, or how does that work?
So in the mortgage industry, interest rates are driven by credit scores. So the better your credit score is, in general, the better the rates are. The lower your score is, with most programs, you're going to pay a premium on the rate.
And that's because of risk from the lenders.
Exactly. Yeah, it's seen as a risk. If you have a poor credit score, it's a less likelihood of repaying the loan on time. So to compensate for the risk, they have to get a bigger return on it.
Okay.
But the costs in general are pretty much even across the board.
You see advertisements for these, we'll repair your credit. Call us up, and for only X amount, we will repair your credit, and we'll get rid of those. We'll also talk down your credit card company, and you only have to pay pennies on the dollar for your credit card debt. Are those legitimate? Is that something that would help if I were to want to buy a new home and I had maybe some iffy credit scores? Is that a path that I could go down that would legitimately allow me to have a better credit score to get a better mortgage rate?
Yeah, so that's something.
And by the way, if I go down a path where you're not expert at, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to ask you a question that you don't know the answer to. But I like having these conversations.
Sure.
As you know, we don't have a script. And I don't have set questions.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested.
Yeah, so that is outside of what we do in our industry.
Okay.
It's related to us because it's dealing with credit, and we deal with credit. And like a lot of different industries, there's a lot of shady companies that are in that area, and then other legitimate ones. So you just have to be really careful in who you're dealing with, because unfortunately there are scams out there as well, and you need to do your research before you commit to something.
Interesting.
But there are people that can help you with that stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so let the buyer beware, I suppose, is the key word on that one.
Exactly.
Is there so the term credit counselor is out there, and you're not a credit counselor.
Correct.
You're a loan officer. But is it, if I'm really in a situation where I don't know what to do, my kids ran up my credit score, they bought 3 cars.
You trying to tell us something, Bob?
No, I've got wonderful kids, and they're super responsible. So, but maybe I'm in a situation where maybe my cousin Lulu, I co-signed on a loan with her to buy a hair salon, and she defaulted, and I'm now stuck with horrible credit because of something that she did. Is a credit counselor somebody that, and by the way, I don't even know what a credit counselor is, I've heard the term, but is that somebody that would be a legitimate way for me to work through my issues?
So a lot of times if it's not an error with your credit, it's going to be tough to make it go away.
So they really are just looking at errors. For example, back in the day, I lived with my father in Pittsburgh, and I'm a junior, he's a senior, and he missed a payment on a boron gasoline credit card. And years later, when I went to buy that one house I bought, it came off my credit score, and I said, well, I've never had a boron credit card. It turned out that the bill was against my father's card, and he paid it the next month, but it still showed up on my credit report.
Yeah.
Is that something that a credit counselor would be able to? I was able to deal with it with a simple phone call, so that wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah.
But
well, that's
but
a great.
you mentioned errors versus legitimate credit issues.
Yeah.
So
that's another thing that's important to do during the pre-approval process is work with someone who's going to review your credit with you. A lot of people have access to these free sites now where you can review your credit, but what we find is what you're seeing on those reports is different than what we see as a lender when we pay for your credit report. There's often stuff on our reports that aren't showing up on the free version. So you really want to review your credit with your loan officer, make sure you know what's on there, make sure the accounts really are yours. And if you're doing that up front when you're getting pre-approved, you can address any issues at that point before you find a home. If you wait till you find a home and then you try to get pre-approved and there's issues,
you're going at it from the wrong
you're going to
end.
lose that house. You're not going to have the chance to buy it. So the best advice is to get prepared, to get pre-approved early on, find out if there's anything you need to work on to put yourself in the best position and avoid any major problems down the line.
And the key is always just pay your bills on time and
always helps.
Keep up on your payments.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So you don't need any credit counselor to do that. It's just a matter of being organized, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, excellent. So I'm speaking with Jason Evans. He's a loan officer with Guaranteed Rate. They can be found at www.rate.com. His is /Jason Evans. And the cool thing is that they're coming to Foxboro. They are going to be opening up an office, and I get to announce their brand new office number. It's area code 508-641-6058. So you heard it here first, Foxboro. So Jason, I got to ask now, with your coming into town, why do you want, and I understand I work a block and a half away from where I live also, so I love the commute. But why Foxboro? Why is Foxboro a good location for this type of business?
One, we didn't have a branch in the immediate area as a company, Guaranteed Rate. Like I said, it is my hometown. Me and my team, I have a team of 5 people that help support me and my clients, and we all live, Foxboro is a pretty central location for where we all live geographically. So the right opportunity came up in town. One of the office spaces in Chestnut Green opened up, so that's where we're going to be moving into, and it just ended up being a great fit for us. So.
Chestnut Green is a great location too. It's right out the center of town, and it's still there's still a lot of green space out there, and it's a really cool vibe out there.
Yeah, no, we're excited. Yeah,
I love that area. So, you're a neighbor of mine on Baker Street also, so there you go. So, I guess if I'm a new person coming in, over the age of 18, I imagine, but if I'm a person looking to get into a situation, how do banks do this? And your company's not a bank, you're a direct lender.
Yeah.
What are the other types of entities that I can go to for a mortgage?
Yeah, so banks and credit unions typically offer mortgages. There's mortgage lenders like I work for, and then there's also mortgage brokers that are like basically a middleman that facilitate the transaction with the banks.
Okay.
And mortgage companies.
A broker, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. So then with your approach to being a support, but also trying to get the best rate for the potential borrower, what are some of the things that I, as a borrower, should look out from a company? And I'm not speaking, I'm sure Guaranteed Rate is the absolute best, but let's just call it, Bob's Lending Company.
Yeah.
If I'm Bob and I have Bob's Lending Company and you're coming to me, what should be some of the things you would want to check out about Bob's Lending Company to make you more comfortable with me as an institution?
Yeah. Well, one of the great things with the current age we're in is you can do a lot of research online through consumer reviews and online profiles.
But won't Russia just put false news out there?
I mean, there's certain companies out there that you'll see, if you research them, you're not going to want to work with them. So in the end, the consumer has a lot of power through social media and the review sites. So you can always do some homework up front before you even make a call. And in the end, I think it's always best to ask friends and family for recommendations. People that have had firsthand experiences with someone is usually the best way to go. And if they have a good reputation and you can trust your family and friends to give you good advice on who they've worked with or who to stay away from, that's a great starting point as well.
Referrals are always the best, right? Definitely. Absolutely. And then the beautiful thing about blogs these days and Facebook is you can ask the blogosphere for a recommendation, and you'll get plenty of them, right?
In an hour, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid of that, right?
Exactly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So speaking with Jason Evans, he's a loan officer. I'm going to give you the last word. Just want to remind everybody that Guaranteed Rate is going to be moving to Foxboro. They have a new office up in Chestnut Green. They can be reached at www.rate.com and the new office /Jason Evans. You can also reach Jason at jason.evans@rate.com. The new telephone number is area code 508-641-6058. So I give you the last word, and thank you so much for coming out and sharing a little bit about the industry, about trends, and about some of the things we should be looking out for.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Bob. This is good to hang out with you tonight, and we're looking forward to being in Foxboro, opening our office here where we live, and now we can say we work here as well, and just helping as many people with good, honest advice.
Well, welcome to the community.
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
All right, thank you. And thank you all, and I hope you enjoyed this program. I know we covered a lot of information, a lot of reference material. If you need to come back to find this again, come back to www.fcatv.org, or you can follow us on our YouTube channel, be a subscriber, and check out this episode of Foxboro Central. I'd like to thank all the volunteers who are here, who make these programs possible, including my camera operators, Adam Taj and Liam Cones, and Betty Travers, who is our best boy of the night, Paul Beck, who is our director, and Michael Weber, who's the executive director of Foxboro Cable Access, who makes all of this happen. I am out of time. Hope you had a great day, and I hope you have another one tomorrow. Have a good one, Foxboro. Take care.